let me shift to Trevor Lawrence and the New York Jets. So, it's pretty obvious that most people believe that Trevor Lawrence is going to be the number 1 overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. Now, earlier in the show, I threw out the idea that Justin Fields could be the number 1 overall pick, but I'm just going to assume that Trevor Lawrence doesn't get overtaken as the number 1 overall pick. And for what it's worth, Trevor Lawrence, he's an amazing prospect. He's as close to a perfect prospect as you probably can get at the quarterback position. He's got the experience. He's got the pedigree. He's won a national title. He's a smart guy. He's got the intangibles. He's got the size. He's got a rocket arm. There's a lot to like about Trevor Lawrence. So we're going to assume the Jets probably don't win another game in 2020 because they're that bad. And we're going to assume that Trevor Lawrence is the guy in 2021 as far as the draft is concerned, okay? If the Jets had the number 1 overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, should Trevor Lawrence avoid the New York Jets? That's the question I'm going to tackle today. Now, before I answer that question, I don't anticipate that Trevor Lawrence is going to be the guy that says, I don't want to play for the Jets. I don't think that he's going to, run away from that challenge. That's just my opinion. However, whether you agree with my opinion or not, if Trevor Lawrence decides to ultimately avoid playing for the New York Jets, I'm not going to blame Trevor Lawrence one bit. I'm not going to be the guy that crushes him for making that move if he chooses to do so. Here's why. Where a quarterback lands matters, people. Lamar Jackson landed in a great situation in Baltimore. That's a big reason why he is a successful quarterback. Josh Allen landed in a great situation in Buffalo. Russell Wilson lands with a great defense that was historically great, actually, in the Legion of Boom. He lands with a great head coach in Pete Carroll. He gets to Super Bowls. Tom Brady lands with Bill Belichick. Oh, it's a coincidence. He wins multiple Super Bowls. Aaron Rodgers gets a great opportunity to learn and sit behind Brett Favre for 3 years. He goes to a pretty well-run organization. Oh, he has success. Patrick Mahomes. He goes to Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs with A-plus weapons, a great offensive line, a great running game, and goes to a team that has a great infrastructure. The Jets right now are a terrible roster. They don't have a lot of great wide receivers outside of Denzel Mims. Their offensive line is atrocious. The defense is not very good. They just fired Greg Williams, their defensive coordinator. Adam Gase is probably going to get fired. And listen, people, Eli Manning is probably going to make the Hall of Fame because he chose to play for the New York Giants and not the Chargers. If Trevor Lawrence avoids the Jets, I'm not going to blame him one bit. However, my opinion is this. I believe that Trevor Lawrence should think twice before avoiding the New York Jets organization. Here's why. Here's the harsh reality, people. Whether Trevor Lawrence stays in school for another year or he avoids the Jets and says, I'm not going to play for you guys, he's going to go to a bad team. Because here's the reality. The Jaguars aren't going anywhere. The Detroit Lions aren't going anywhere. The Atlanta Falcons aren't going anywhere. Dysfunctional teams, dysfunctional organizations, these teams are not going anywhere, people. So if the Jets can't get Trevor Lawrence, who's to say Trevor Lawrence can avoid the dysfunctional Jaguars? Who's to say he can avoid the dysfunctional Detroit Lions? I can go on and on. He's going to go to a bad team. He's going to go to a bad franchise, regardless if he stays in school or not. Let's say Trevor Lawrence decides to come back to Clemson for another year in school. Do you know what 3 or 4 NFL franchises are going to do? They're going to do exactly what the Jets are doing. They're going to do exactly what the Jaguars are doing right now. They're going to strip everything down. They're going to fire their head coaches. They're going to fire their coordinators. And they're going to do everything in their power to try to get the number 1 overall pick and that guy will be Trevor Lawrence, because as good as Keenan Slovis is, Trevor Lawrence is a better prospect than him. He will probably be the number 1 overall pick next year as well. And who's to say that the New York Jets are going anywhere? Okay? You could try to avoid the Jets this year. They could have the number 1 overall pick next year. If you're a top 10 overall pick and you're a highly coveted quarterback, you're going to go to a bad roster more than likely. Look at Kyler Murray. Look at Dwayne Haskins. Look at Daniel Jones. Look at Joe Burrow. Look at Justin Herbert. Look at Jared Goff. Look at Baker Mayfield. Look at Sam Darnold. Look at Josh Rosen. Of course, you've got the Rams. You've got the Browns, who are teams that were terrible, but they've improved their team. Obviously, the Arizona Cardinals are doing some good things. But initially, those teams were bad, okay? So whether Trevor Lawrence likes it or not, he's probably going to go to a dysfunctional team, and he's going to inherit a bad roster. And again, that roster could get better over time, but the harsh reality is he's not going to be going to a contending team from day number 1. That's not going to happen. Here's another thing to think about. What if Trevor Lawrence goes back to school and he gets injured? That could cost Trevor Lawrence millions of dollars if he's not able to return as the same player that he once was. That could definitely affect his draft stock, and that definitely could affect his pocketbooks, okay? Here's another thing to think about. What if Trevor Lawrence tells the New York Jets, oh, I don't like your team, I'm not going to play for you? And what if the Jets say, we flat out don't care, we're not trading the pick? Then what happens? Then you've basically already lost the fan base. Players in the locker room are already skeptical of you before you ever enter the building. That's not a good situation to be in. So you'll be putting yourself in a very harmful situation as far as the fan base and the coaching staff and the players go in that locker room. If you say, I don't want to play for the Jets, and the Jets end up saying, we don't care, we're not trading the pick, we're drafting you anyway, no matter if you want to come play for us or not. And then you can say, well, he could get traded to another team. Yeah, maybe that's true, but some teams could be turned off by that. They can say, man, Trevor Lawrence doesn't want to play for the Jets. What if he doesn't want to play for my team? Why should I trade for Trevor Lawrence? So I'm just saying there's a lot of crazy things that could happen if that happens, you know. And listen, I know what you're probably thinking. Adam Gase is going to get fired. The Jets probably aren't going to get a great head coach next year. And that might be the case, but let's think about what the next New York Jets head coach is going to have to work with. Obviously, the roster needs help. You need to get better players on that roster. And obviously, there is some dysfunction at the top. I totally get it, 100%. But the next head coach, more than likely, is going to get an opportunity to coach Trevor Lawrence. You mean to tell me Eric Bieniemy, Robert Saleh, and some of these top-level head coaching candidates are not going to salvage at the moment to maybe get their hands on Trevor Lawrence to coach, to be their quarterback in the future on a rookie contract where you can spend a bunch of money and put stuff around him? I think Trevor Lawrence, being such a high commodity, makes the Jets much more attractive than you think. Also, the New York Jets have a ton of cap space. And also, they're a big-time market. They're not a small market like Green Bay, Wisconsin. They're a big-time market. Free agents are going to want to play for the New York Jets eventually if the money is right and the team is good. So you can attract big-time free agents. Not to mention, over the next 3 years, the Jets have 13 draft picks in the first, second, and third round combined. You got 13 draft picks in the first 3 rounds over the next 3 years. You can improve this team with draft capital. And not to mention, expectations are low for you. Expectations are at an all-time low bar. The Jets very well could go 0-16 this year. You mean to tell me that if the Jets don't win 4, 5, or 6 games next year, Trevor Lawrence and that head coach are not going to be praised? I beg to differ. They will be praised tremendously. Brian Flores got a ton of credit for winning 5 games with the Miami Dolphins last year. And that Miami Dolphins team had much more talent than this New York Jets team, okay? If Trevor Lawrence becomes a great quarterback, he easily becomes the biggest star in the New York sports market. A big arm quarterback that was a star at Clemson, he definitely would be a star in the New York market, being a great quarterback for the New York Jets. No doubt about it. It's a big market. He'd get a ton of endorsements. He'd be set for life. He'd be a celebrity. He'd be rich. And he would be a franchise changer. No doubt about it. Even from a revenue perspective. He sell a lot of tickets and he bring in a lot of money to the city of New York, being the quarterback for the Jets. You know how many tickets Trevor Lawrence is going to sell? Do you know how many jerseys people are going to buy if Trevor Lawrence is a hit? When we look at very famous athletes currently in New York City, you've got Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. Very good players that play for the New York Yankees, but it's baseball, people. America only cares about baseball until the postseason arrives. That's just our reality. If you look at the New York Knicks, who do they have? Obi Toppin. I like Obi Toppin a lot, but I don't think that Obi Toppin can reach the status that Trevor Lawrence can reach if he becomes a hit. Football is more popular in America than basketball. It's just our reality. Is Daniel Jones a big-time star in New York? A lot of people know who he is, but he's kind of boring. He's not very talkative. Saquon Barkley, he's great. He's dynamic. He's a running back, not a quarterback. And for what it's worth, the New York Rangers are cool, but no one cares about hockey. I'm just saying, people. So for all those reasons that I mentioned, if I'm Trevor Lawrence, I would personally think twice about passing on the opportunity to be the next franchise quarterback for the New York Jets. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juiciest Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juiciest Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.